No matter what, dinosaurs will always rule the earth and the box office. Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Today our movie in the middle is Jurassic World Dominion. Jurassic World Dominion is the final chapter in the reboot trilogy, this time seeing the dinosaurs loose among cities everywhere, and it's going to take more than the new crew of Owen and Claire to fix this mess. It stars Chris Pratt, Bryce Dallas Howard, Sam Neill, Laura Dern, Jeff Goldblum, and BD Wong. So before I get into talking about Jurassic World Dominion, I did say that I would talk about the first two really quick and my thoughts on them. Jurassic World was, kind of like I said for Fantastic Beasts and for Star Wars, a really good first movie in the reboot trilogy for this franchise. I think it was kind of like the others. It was not super original. It was kind of like Jurassic Park, but it did have enough new things in it to make it interesting. And I think it was really fun. It had a lot of Easter eggs and references to the originals, and honestly, that's what really made it the most fun, I think, was not only this new Indominus Rex, which was huge and had so many things that made it much scarier, like the fact that it could camouflage, but all the references, the Easter eggs, everything we wanted from the originals was back in it, plus the park was actually open. I thought that the thing with the dynamic with the brothers was really great, because I have a brother, so it was, for me personally, it was really great. I just think that the whole thing, they did a really good job of giving us what we wanted while opening the door to new things. And obviously we also had the Chris Pratt, holding back the Velociraptors scene, which was like the biggest thing of that year. And it is still one of the coolest scenes to this day of the entire franchise.
Stand down. Hey! What did I just say? Delta, I see you. Back up.
And then we get Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, which was just a follow-up. Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom was like two different movies. Like one half of the movie was one totally different thing, and then the second half was another totally different thing. And while both of them had good ideas, the execution just wasn't great. The first half being trying to get the dinosaurs off the island, it was a lot more lonely feeling. It was a lot darker than the first one. It was more of like the aftermath of everything of the first one. And it did have a lot of cool things, specifically the shot where they left, I think it was a Brachiosaurus on the island, and it was just covered up in the smoke from the volcano that was going to erupt. That was a really sad shot, and I thought that was actually one of the best of the movie. But then you get the second half too, which again is another great idea. You kind of, this monster in the house, was an Indoraptor, I think it was, sort of chase, and it was more of like a horror, like the first Jurassic Park and even Lost World, they're kind of horrors as well, but this one was like a true like monster in the house horror movie, and that was a really cool idea. But again, just how they got there for both of those were just not the best. I mean, in the first half you have the one character who just, his entire purpose is to scream, and then in the second half you have like an auction of dinosaurs, which I guess is a kind of realistic thing that would happen, but I don't know, it just seemed a little ridiculous. I don't want to go too much into it because I want to get into talking about Jurassic World Dominion, but we all kind of know what the problems were with that, specifically the fact that they went into clones in Fallen Kingdom, and that was kind of a stretch, kind of a weird way to go with it. It was a little far-fetched. I may talk about this more because I have a lot of thoughts on Fallen Kingdom. I actually haven't seen it in a bit, but I do want to get to Dominion. But we all kind of know how we feel about both of them. But again, Fallen Kingdom had its good moments. So Jurassic World Dominion. So all three of these are directed by Colin Trevorrow, and he said that he made the first two to get to this third one. That it's not the best reason to make a movie. He basically had this idea for Dominion and wanted to get to it, but in order to earn this idea, he had to make the first two to logically get there. Was it worth it? Let's see. So for the highs, there are dinosaurs everywhere in this movie. Whoever said that this movie was boring and lacked dinosaurs clearly did not see the same movie that I did, because there are dinosaurs everywhere. They have all different types. I mean, they have types that are the mixed breed of different dinosaurs like we had in Fallen Kingdom, and even in Jurassic World with like the kind of T-Rex, pterodactyl sort of looking ones. But then they even have ones that are like old dinosaurs that look like birds. Like, They were really creepy too. There was one specifically in this that's a really cool dinosaur that comes back at the end. That is, it was a really cool one. It looked basically like a gigantic bird. But they have parts with dinosaurs almost every single scene, which I guess makes sense. But you know what I mean? It's like they had just something different every single scene with a dinosaur where they had to fight something new. And I thought they did a really good job with it. They were able to bring just about every single dinosaur that we know and love and some new ones back in this one and put them in where it didn't feel like they were just crammed in there, but you know, they're everywhere. They're loose on the world now, so it kind of makes sense. It was also cool to see how humanity has adapted to this way of living. You know, it's sort of like The Walking Dead, where it's like this is our new way of living now. You know, and the different factions that they have, because this I think takes place a few years after the end of Fallen Kingdom. So you kind of have people who are there to save the dinosaurs. You have the people who were there to exploit the dinosaurs, put them in zoos, make money off of them. And there are even some like underground things that are going on with like dinosaur fighting and you know dinosaur auctions. And so I thought that was a really cool idea. It was definitely done better than I think Fallen Kingdom. Another high that I was a little surprised about being a high was actually the use of Macy, the clone from Fallen Kingdom. I was surprised because this was probably the most controversial decision of the entire trilogy to have this character exist. But in this one, she actually is pretty cool. She's a pretty badass little kid, and they do sort of retcon a little bit why she is the way she is. Not like terribly, but what they kind of do is I think they take the idea of her being a clone and sort of turn it around to be something that's going to be a good thing in the long run. You know, they do make it like a little bit of a better subplot, and her character actually means something. And just her character in and of herself, she was actually really funny and she was really cool. I really liked her in this movie. Now I know what you're all waiting for. The biggest high of this movie, obviously, is the fact that the main three from the original Jurassic Park are back. We have Dr. Grant, Ellie Sattler, and Ian Malcolm. And my God, the fact that they were in this movie just to begin with was awesome. But I also liked how they weren't just thrown in there, like at the end or something. Like they were a part of the story, and it was cool because it was like getting to see the old, trio and this new, I guess they're a trio, come together. And it was pretty awesome because, again, it's not like they were just shoehorned in. They were a part of this for actually most of the movie, and they have their own kind of character developments as well. The one thing I didn't love is that Grant is sort of portrayed mostly just like an old man and slightly like a simp in a weird way. But besides that, they were awesome. All three of them were great. It was cool getting the old perspective, the new perspective. They all had sort of this respect for each other because they had all sort of heard of each other, which was really cool. And they all just had something to contribute, especially when they all come together and they finally meet each other. It was awesome. The whole gang was incredible. I will say having those three in there as well makes the whole world and makes this whole storyline feel that much more real because it is affecting these other people who were a part of it. It's not like this is a separate alternate universe of Jurassic Park where they don't exist, or it was like so far in the past. Like this is still Jurassic World that was made years after Jurassic Park and is still a bad idea, and they still did it anyway. And now you get to see how all of the previous people who were in Jurassic Park think of what they did now and what's going on and how the dinosaurs being loose is affecting them, considering they went through this. It just made it that much more real. It gave it a lot more depth. Of course, I would be remiss to not talk about Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard as well. They were both really, really great. I mean, Chris Pratt, does all the action, of course, and Bryce Dallas Howard does a lot of action as well, actually. But both of them were awesome because they're kind of like Macy's parents now, and I think that was great for having them be in that parental role and taking care of somebody else. And I don't know, it just felt like they grew up a little bit more, I do have just a couple middle elements, again, things that like I'm not sure about, but they don't really take away from the movie. How they were able to have so many uses of control over dinosaurs. Rewatching Jurassic Park, I realized the whole point of that movie is no matter what they do, they have a lack of control. You're not going to be able to control it. In this one, again, they were able to adapt over years, and they sort of have to adapt over years of living with these dinosaurs without getting eaten. So I guess it plausibly does make sense that they would find technological ways, especially now, years later, to control the dinosaurs with science and I don't know, stuff like that. At the same time, it sort of weirdly takes away from the theme of you can't control them. Although that does sort of play into the end, which I'll get to in a second. So it still is sort of there. So again, it's a middle element. My last middle element is just that the T-Rex is in here. Don't worry. The T-Rex is in here. It can't not be. It's the main character of the whole franchise. But the way it's in there is a little shoehorned. It's just kind of thrown in because it's like, well, we need the T-Rex in there to fight something again. But that doesn't mean that it's not still cool. It's still a really cool character, obviously. It's cool that it's in there at all. And what they do with it at the end is pretty cool. Again, it's kind of like just throw it in there sort of conflict, but I still really liked it. And there's a really shocking moment that comes with it at the end. I basically have two large lows for the movie, and they sort of go hand in hand. The first is that I feel like they focus on the wrong problem, the wrong conflict. The dinosaurs being in the city, in everywhere, just loose and living with people like just regular animals, is sort of the backdrop conflict to what the actual conflict is. There's sort of two main problems that go on in this movie that they have to solve or figure out. And while they go along with the dinosaurs being loose, it's neither of them are actually about the dinosaurs. Again, the dinosaurs make for a lot of great obstacles and a lot of great moments that they have to get through in order to fix these other problems. But it's like they made a new problem when they already had this one. And this one was the whole reason that Colin Trevorrow made the script in the first place. So why wouldn't you do something else with that? Again, it's weird because like they do a lot of things with it and it is a problem, but it's just not the main problem. And so that kind of gets into my other problem with the movie. My other low is that because they don't address that as the problem directly, it's more of an indirect thing that they have to address. The movie kind of ends where it starts. It just doesn't really feel like what Colin Trevorrow had set up to be this third movie was even really talked about as much. They kind of basically talk about it for 5 minutes at the beginning and 2 minutes at the end. There's like, we see a whole lot of dinosaurs in the beginning everywhere. And to be fair, I did actually miss the first 5 minutes of the movie because I was running late because of certain things. But that's what my mom told me, is that we saw dinosaurs in different scenarios, like at the movies or at a zoo or whatever. And then at the end, again, I'm not going to say what they do, but they do address it. But it's just kind of like a wrap up, like, oh yeah, we didn't really talk about it, but like, this is just what we have to do. And I thought that was kind of weird, considering this is the whole reason he made the movie in the first place, was to get to this concept and to not really do a whole lot with it in terms of an arc, what we have to do about this. Although it does address the idea of lack of control, so maybe that's what he was getting at. In which case, I'll respect that. But for me, I just thought it was kind of weird that they just, it ended where it began. It didn't really change. Basically, it was like doing a side quest when we were just trying to get to the main quest, and we were like, what, you didn't do? Okay, all right. So, overall, Jurassic World Dominion. I explained it to my brother like this, and I hope this makes sense. Although I was underwhelmed, I was not disappointed. Basically, it feels like a really good movie that should have been earlier in the franchise, but not the last one. It just doesn't feel like it came up to the level of like what the last one should be to wrap stuff up, but it was still a fun, great movie that I really enjoyed. So I was underwhelmed by it, but I wasn't disappointed because honestly, I didn't have a lot of expectation going into it to begin with. It was on my top 10, but it was number 10, so it was the least of my expectations. But I actually enjoyed it. And again, I don't know if that's why, because I had less expectations for it or whatever, but honestly, I really enjoyed it. I was thoroughly entertained. There's a lot of action. There's a lot of dinosaurs, obviously. There's still a lot of new stuff. There's a lot of really cool moments. I just thought that on a bigger picture scale, they maybe sort of missed the mark a little bit. Movies like this now with Fantastic Beasts and Star Wars, it's just, there's so much pressure and expectation. I don't know if we're ever going to get one that will just do what we want it to do, because I don't know if that's actually possible. The expectations could just be too high. But it was still great to see the gang one more time. It was great to see all those references. It was cool just to see them all come back and to all meet each other. I really did enjoy Jurassic World Dominion. I'm going to give it a 3 out of 4. So you're probably wondering what my ranking is. I would say for the trilogy that we have now for Jurassic World, it would probably be Jurassic World, then Jurassic World Dominion, then obviously Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. And if I had to rank all 6, I'd probably go with, obviously, Jurassic Park, then Jurassic World, then The Lost World, Jurassic Park, then Jurassic World Dominion, then Jurassic Park 3, then Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. Guys, let me know what you thought of Jurassic World Dominion. Let me know if you thought it actually met your expectations. Let me know if you thought it was really disappointing. And let me know what your favorite dinosaur is, especially if you've seen this one, because like I said, there's a couple new ones in there that are pretty cool. And as always, keep your hopes high, your stress low, and movies right in the middle. I'll see you guys later.